Donald Trump's tenure in the White House was marked by spectacle and attempts at showmanship. His history-making appearance in federal court to face a 37-count indictment was no different. After the court appearance, he treated the day like a campaign event. Joining me on the morning show, former federal prosecutor Curtis Fallgatter, these days in private practice as a criminal defense attorney. Good morning. Welcome back to the morning show.
Good morning, Bruce.
So it really is no surprise. He called it political persecution, election interference. He went after the federal prosecutors. He called the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, a thug. Those kind of comments might roll off their backs, but are they going to be looking at what he says for inconsistencies?
Absolutely. Some of the strongest evidence in any trial is the words of the defendant. So if they make statements that are evidencing their guilt of the case, knowledge of the laws, that's very powerful evidence. So they'll be continuing to look for that. Of course, they got a bunch already, and they've recited in the indictment already.
Do you think his attorneys, knowing full well that Mr. Trump likes to say what he wants to say when he wants to say it, are saying, maybe you ought to quit with some of the rhetoric?
They'll definitely tell him that, but they can't control him. And of course, the insults against the prosecutor, he can get away with that because that's not going to be evidence in court. It's when he talks about the underlying aspects of the case and makes some admissions about that, that's what's going to come back to haunt him.
Now, I mentioned the special prosecutor, Jack Smith. Interesting to note that he sat right behind the federal prosecutors at the bench, and he is making himself very visible. You think he's doing that very specifically to send a message?
Well, he's only done it recently, and of course, as we know, in the 250 some odd years of the nation's existence, this is the only indictment of a formerly sitting president. So he's the special counsel. It's appropriate for him to be there. And obviously, he's had a steady hand on the indictment, so I suspect he'll be present throughout these proceedings.
Yeah, but there's some who said, look, we didn't see it from special prosecutors before. He is saying, I'm the face of this. I'm the decision maker here, and it's not necessarily Merrick Garland, so more to come on that. Apparently, the issue about who Trump cannot talk to about the case was a sort of great courtroom debate. He can talk to his aides. He can talk to his co-defendant, but not about the case itself. Is this some place where he might get tripped up?
I've never had a federal case where the judge didn't impose that requirement, where co-defendants can't talk to each other, defendants can't talk to the government witnesses. Can they get away with that and not get caught? Possibly. If he does and gets caught, he's going to be in trouble.
So let me go back a bit in history. During the 2016 campaign, he criticized Hillary Clinton and assured voters all confidential, these were his words, and national defense materials would be safeguarded if he became president. Could those words come back to haunt him?
Again, Bruce, the words of a defendant about the crime that express their knowledge and intent are powerful evidence. Those will absolutely come back to haunt him, and they're in the indictment. They've already cited them in the indictment, so the government knows how strong that evidence is.
And people sit back and they say, okay, he's got these counts against him. There's a federal indictment against him. What makes this case different than, the situation with the sitting president and also with Mike Pence and some of the others who've had documents? Is it the fact that they're cooperating with the investigators?
Well, Bruce, as you can see in this indictment, any records that Mr. Trump returned are not the subject of this indictment. It's only those that he willfully retained and failed to disclose and then lied about it. That's this indictment. Those other cases don't involve that type of conduct.
And this is not necessarily the end of Mr. Trump's legal woes. He faces a third prosecution in Georgia for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. We don't have a crystal ball, but the evidence there appears to be coming out. Do you expect another indictment to be forthcoming?
That's another case where his own words are going to be used against him. He's got tape recordings where he's trying to get more votes. So that's evidence of corruption. And of course, don't forget there's the pending investigation on the insurrection on January 6th. That's a federal investigation that has not yet been resolved.
All right, Curtis Fallgatter, you always have some interesting insights. Thanks for being here with us. Appreciate it.